In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint this misty ocean with wash and watercolor. Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. My name is Teresa, and as always, let me just walk you through all the materials that I'll be using for today's tutorial. And I will start the painting with wash first. So here is my material. I have the fluid hot brush, 100% cotton paper. I am using Hoban wash with 3 colors, ultramarine, black, and white. And for brushes, I will be using flat brush and round brush. And I also have a mixing palette here to mix the colors. All the supplies will be linked in the description below if you want to check them out. Now let's get started. Before we get into painting, the first step is to observe and simplify. Here, I already printed out the reference photo in black and white. I also showed the original photo on the left side corner of the screen for you guys, but since it's a misty ocean, so the color is pretty much the same, it's like grayish toned. And I like to have the black and white reference photo because it helped me to remove all the unnecessary detail and just focus on the shape and the value. And now I am using my marker to mark off the ripples that has the darkest value so that I can see clearly the shapes and also where they are located. And later on, these gonna help me with the sketch on the painting. I also use a marker with different colors to mark the areas that have the lightest value, as you can see. And now I am marking where the horizon light is. As you can see, as I move toward to horizon light, all the ripples become shorter and lighter in colors. And now I think that I have enough information to actually get started with my painting now. I know that painting oceans sometimes can be very overwhelming and intimidating, but remember, you can always simplify it in shapes and colors and values. You can print out a reference photo in black and white just like what I'm doing here, or you can squeeze your eyes so that you can remove all unnecessary detail, or you can just leave it in your phone and then change the filter to black and white. Now I'm going to put the reference photo on the side and we'll start painting. I am using a very limited color palette here, which only has 3 colors, ultramarine, black, and white, which is great for a practice. And feel free to use any colors combination of your choice. Now I am applying the first thin layer for the whole area by mixing ultramarine with black. And as I mentioned in my previous video, for wash you can also use this as watercolors by mixing it with water, and then it's gonna give you a very thin and transparent layer. And after the first layer is dry, I am going to grab my pencil and start drawing the horizon line as well as all of the ripples that have the darkest value that I already marked in the beginning. I find that it is very easy to get lost if you try to copy every ripple that you see in the reference photo into your painting. So my suggestion is to do as much as you can and try to draw whatever that stands out to you, but you definitely don't have to bring every detail from the reference photo into your painting. And after finishing with the pencil sketch, I am going to fill in all of the shapes with the colors in the most saturated form to match the value that we see in the reference photo. The great thing about wash is that it is very versatile. It allows you to work from dark to light or light to dark. So I would say don't be scared to apply the color at this stage. If at one point you don't like the colors or you want to make it lighter, you can always apply another layer and start over again. And now I am moving to the area where it's moved toward to horizon line. So the further away it appears to be, the less detail it's gonna have. So it looks like that I am painting a bunch of short, thin, broken line. And now I am back to the front area and start adding another layer. And this should be the area that we need to put more detail and pay more attention because this is close to the viewers. And I also noticed in the reference photo that there's also a thin broken line around those dark and thick ripples. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply onto my painting as well. So I think the key here is just to observe the reference photo and start applying what you see. And now something I want to share with you is that in the middle of the painting, when I feel stuck or don't know what to do, I usually use my phone camera and point toward to my painting, switch over to the black and white filter, and I will see if my painting has enough contrast. But here I feel like I see it has more gray tone and it's kind of lack of contrast here. At the same time, when I point the camera toward the reference photo, you see that it has a very clear contrast between the dark and the light area. So now back to the painting. I think what I am doing next is to adding layer into those dark ripples because I feel like it's still very light. And this time I will mix ultramarine with black but add more black so that I can have the most saturated pigment. And I will apply white wash into those areas that has the lightest value, just like what you see in the reference photo. And while I'm applying the white wash, it can cover all the short and thin ripples that I have applied beforehand, but that's okay. Later on I can always go back and reapply those thin and broken brushstrokes. So I really hope that you get what I'm talking about here. Sometimes it's just very hard to paint on a camera. That is one thing, and explain what I'm doing is even harder. And now basically I'm just gonna go back and forth and apply layers on top of another layers until I am happy with how the painting looks. As you may know, I am still very new to wash and I'm still learning basically. And if there's anything I did with this painting is not an ideal to do with this medium, I am open to all the feedbacks, and I will be happy if you could provide me some tips and tricks in the comments as well. And now what I'm doing with the sky is just adding a little bit of texture to add a bit of interest. That's it, but I still want the sky to remain light and blurry to keep the misty ocean vibe. And now the painting is completely done. I will remove the tip, and while waiting for it to be completely dry, I put it aside, and now we will start to paint the same photo but this time with watercolor. And again, you can find all of the materials information in the description below if you're interested. With watercolor, I'm only going to use two colors, which is paint grays and indigo blue. And now I am going to wet the paper first with clean water and apply the first layer of colors. This is called wet on wet techniques. I have a video which is the intro to watercolors for absolute beginners. If you're interested, you can always check it out. I will link it in the description below as well. With watercolor, while the pen is still wet, you can tilt the paper here just like what I'm doing now, so that you can create a little bit of movement for the sky. And after the first layer is completely dry, we will start to paint the ocean. And for this one, we will apply the dry brush technique. You can see how I am holding the brush. So to make this technique work, you will use the side of the brush instead of the tip of the brush. And make sure that the paper is completely dry. And also, I forgot to mention that I am using the cold press arches. As you can see, this is a close-up of the paper. It has texture in the paper, so it is a perfect paper if you want to use dry brush techniques in your painting. And as you can see, with this technique, you can create some highlight for the ocean without doing too much work. And now I am moving to the front area, and just like what I was doing with wash, I was just gonna paint off the dark ripples that we see in the reference photo here. And for this stage, I am still gonna apply the wet on wet techniques. Make sure that you wet the paper with water first. Make sure that it's not soaking wet, but it's just a little bit damp. As you can see, when I apply the paint onto the paper, it's spreading but not too much because it's not soaking wet. And now what you see here is just the same process that I did with wash painting, but it's just a little bit different because this time we do it with watercolor. And remember, in watercolor we always goes from light to dark. You build up the intensity of color by applying layers on layers. And for this painting, I will try to reserve the white areas for the highlight instead of using whitewash. Now, instead of using the whitewash to preserve the white area, one thing you can do with watercolor is that if you want to remove the colors, you can go back with a clean brush and remove the colors and use a small piece of napkins or tissue to lift up the colors in that area. Since I know that I am going to use a couple of techniques for this painting, so that's the reason why I am using artist paper for today's, because this is an artist grade watercolor paper. That means it's high quality, and then it's gonna allow you to use a lot of techniques. So if you can use a good paper, it's gonna help with your painting process as well. Alright guys, here is the complete look of two paintings, one with wash and the other with watercolors. So I personally think that I've done it better with watercolor, which is understandable because I have quite experience with watercolor for a longer time compared to wash. But I think that for watercolors, the brushstroke is much better compared to wash version, and it's kind of create a movement for the painting as well. But overall, I feel happy that I tried them both, and in the end I have two versions of the same reference photo to compare and see the difference between two mediums. Each medium gonna give you a different look, and that is the beauty of art. And don't forget to comment to let me know which ones you like better. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video today. And if you do, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!